We need to stop these protests and free speech rallies that have been going on. You will stop these protests if they continue to happen.
We will not be silent. What are you doing here? The school wants us to have less freedom of speech. The school tells me to stop, you should probably stop. Why should we? It's freedom of speech. We can do it any place at any time. If you don't stop, I'll stop you and you'll hopefully behind me. I won't stop.
I told the students to stop, but it's just how kids are. I don't know what they were thinking. I told them to stop many times, they just wouldn't.
How many did you arrest? I saw so many kids in handcuffs.
My estimate, 100, maybe more. Couldn't count really.
Why do you want to continue with the protests?
These schools want us to stop speaking freely, and that's one of our rights. Why would I let others stop me from what I'm able to do?
Mario Savio was born on December 8th, 1942. From an early age, he was always very smart and graduated at the top of his class, and he even got a full scholarship to Manhattan College. His parents moved to LA, causing him to enroll in UC Berkeley. He always fought for basic human rights, and one time he was arrested for going against a hotel for excluding black people from non-menial jobs. He joined many protests and was always against violence, so when UC Berkeley banned all political activity and fundraising, basic human right, that was when he stepped in and joined the protests against Berkeley. Savio's part in the protests on the Berkeley campus started on October 1st, 1964, when former graduate student Jack Weinberg was manning a table for the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE for short. He was arrested when he refused to provide identification.
The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was the principal channel of student committee in the United States to the civil rights movement during the 1960s. They supported many different movements such as freedom of speech. The movement held protests for many topics which had ties into freedom of speech and how freedom of speech is important on its own, but also on other topics.
I come here to get rid of any and all restrictions on freedom of speech. The students are old enough. They should be able to say whatever they want to say.
Well, you see, unfortunately, we can't allow that. No student will be able to work on their education, and that's the most important part.
See, if you allow the students to be able to say whatever they want, there won't be any riots as to having freedom of speech. So all the kids, they'll get the education and they'll focus on school. All they really want is just to express how they feel.
I'm afraid I can't allow that. I need you and your members to disband immediately.
Look, I already have Core and Nick right behind me. We're not going to disform. We're going to continue rioting until you remove that restriction.
Later on, Mario and his group were right with the police face to face, and a compromise was formed at that time. But later, Mario Savio created a new group called Berkeley Free Speech Movement, FSM for short. On December 2nd, 1964, around 5,000 people gathered to hear Mario Savio speak about striking down the university and their power to silence the students. Thousands of students planned to do a sit-in demonstration at the campus. But as soon as the students sat down, the police started beating the protesters. A huge group of protesters saw this in horror.
This is what wanted me, another demonstration, and do a peaceful sit-in. A peaceful sit-in. Seems like you and the police got the wrong message.
Look, I did not plan for this to happen. I didn't think.
Well, you thought wrong. You and the administration should really reflect on your actions.
Mr. Savo, I can assure you that our actions were just to justify the situation.
How about you assure the freedom of speech rights for students? Action.
What are you expecting the protesters to do?
I don't exactly know. All I know is that they would be protesting for free speech, but I didn't know that they would do it at any cost.
Why don't you give the students freedom of speech?
DNR members never found it necessary for students to speak out, but this is a clear example of students wanting to be heard.
Later on, the administration supports the FSM members. However, the board still asserts control on campus activities, but they hire someone else who understands the students' activities. His first act was allow students freedom of speech.